Okay, we are going to do the mid-module 5 review. So you'll need a piece of paper and a pencil if you're watching this at home. Let's look at the first one. Which fraction is not equivalent to the other three? So we're going to start with, let's look at 6/4 and see if it's equivalent to 12/8. Well, if I multiply by 2 here and I multiply by 2 here, yep, I can get 12/8. Okay, let's check if 3/2 is equivalent to 12/8. Okay, if I multiply by 4 here and by 4 here, yep. And then let's check if 8/4 is equivalent to 12/8. Well, if I do times 2, I would have to do times 2, and that would make 16. So 8/4 cannot be equivalent to 6/4 or 3/2 or 12/8. Okay, so let's look at B. Okay, let's do 3/2. Check it with 9/6. If I multiply by 3 on both, that checks out. Okay, let's try 3/2 with 16/12. Well, if I multiply by 6, I get 12. But if I do by 6 here, I get 18. So that doesn't work. So it's probably this one, but let's check one more. 3/2 and we have 6/4 left. And that checks out. So it's got to be 16/12. All right, this next one says, determine if the fraction is greater than, less than, or equal to the other fraction. Okay, so if we look at A, and we're looking at 8/6 and 4/6, we see that they have the same whole, which would be 6/6, and that 8 is more than 4. So 8/6 would be greater than 4/6. Okay, and then let's look at B. I'm going to do this on another paper. Or I'll just. All right, so if I'm looking at 2B, it says 4/9 and 4/12. On this one, they have the same numerators, but we know that we can compare, the denominators are not the same. And we know that the 12ths would actually be smaller than the 9ths because that would be more pieces out of the whole. So in this case, we would say 4/9 is greater than 4/12. Okay. The next one, C, says 3/3 and 100 hundredths. So when I look at these, I immediately know that's 3 out of 3 pieces, 3 out of 3 parts shaded in. If the numerator and the denominator are the same, that equals 1. So this equals 1 and that equals 1. So I know those two are equal. Okay, let's look at D. Okay, D is 4/12 and 5/8. So on this one, we can reason a little bit. Well, I know that if I'm looking at a fraction, if I want to know if it's bigger than half, like 5/8, half of 8 would be 4. So I know that 5/8 is bigger than 1/2, right? So 5/8 is greater than 1/2. And then if I look at 4/12, well, half of 12 is 6. So this one would be less than 1/2. So that helps me know that 4/12 would be less than 5/8. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, so on this one is 8/3 and 16/6. So on this one, I'm just going to try to make a common denominator, and I want to try to make it the same as the larger one. So I'm going to say 8/3, and how can I make it something out of 6? You could draw a picture if you wanted to for this, but I'm just going to say, well, whatever I multiply the bottom by, because 3 times 2 makes 6, I have to do that to my top, right? So now I have 16/6. Well, now I can see that 8/3 equals 16/6. So that's the same thing. So this one would be equals. Okay, let's look at this one. This one says solve to make the number sentence true. Okay, so all we have is 2/3 plus 1/3. If we wanted to, we could draw a picture, or since I see that they have common denominators, I can just add the numerators. 2 plus 1 is 3, 3/3. Or that equals 1. That's just saying 3 out of the 3. Okay, and then B, it says 4/5 plus question mark equals 1. Okay, so let's think this one through. So we have 4/5 plus something a little bit more equals 1. So if we're looking at fifths, okay, so if we drew a picture and we were making fifths, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, imagine the whole thing is shaded in, that's 4/5. Okay, so how many more fifths would I need to make one whole, or 5/5? Just 1/5. So I know that would be 1/5. Okay, let's look at C. C says 3/10 plus 6/10 plus 2/10 equals what? Well, I see they all have the same denominator on this one, so I'm just going to add the numbers across. So 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 2 more, 10, 11. So I would have 11/10. If I wanted to write that as a mixed number, I can say, well, that's the same thing as 10/10 plus 1/10. So that's the same thing as 1 and 1/10.